name is Robert Gaddy. I currently serve as the interim chief of police here at North Carolina Central. But most importantly, I think I want to talk about my relationship with Deputy BJ Counsel, who I work with at the Durham Police Department, where I served for over 30 years. I want to talk about some of the work that she's done in her organization that she created called UN50. And it's a part of the, this is, of course, relates to our social change class and a way of looking at policing from a different angle, or delivering policing from a different angle. And so what I would tell you is that everything, when I first learned about her, and this is the second time I've actually done some work on her, in part one of this class, I did one on her and Steve Chalmers with their two organizations, but I really want to focus in on what she's doing, because it's to me, it's really, and this is not to say that Steve isn't significant, but I just really want to kind of focus on this one a little bit more. And so what I discovered about her was that she challenged everything, because she and I came from the same cloth. She challenged everything I knew about police community relations and my own role as a law enforcement officer leader. So there again, like I said, my journey, I came up through the ranks of Durham PD. I spent over 3 decades and I achieved the rank of captain. I've been given orders. I responded to different crises. I've did what I thought understood and what I thought community policing was. But after working under BJ and after seeing her get out from under the Durham Police Department umbrella, and even now serving as interim chief, I grapple with the question at night: how can those of us who spent so much time in our careers help heal the divide between law enforcement and the communities that we serve? Which is a huge question. It's more than just theoretical, it's personal. What I thought about and what I did for 30 years, how can we transform those relationships from the inside out? And I think when you look at our lesson plans, we talked about a spiritual disease of separation. This course introduced me to that. It helped me kind of put a face to what we've been seeing, I've been seeing my whole career. It's an inability to recognize, how deeply connected we are as human beings. As police, we see ourselves as robots, and we do the same thing pretty much the same way across it. And so that actually manifests itself in different ways. At the individual level, it's a us versus them mentality. Communities see police as the enemies. Police the community as a threat. And so both sides forget we're both human beings, and everybody's trying to get home safely. Everybody's trying to create this peaceful place. At the institutional level, it's baked into our DNA, so to speak, as law enforcement. Accountability structures that protect officers instead of serving them justice. And so, those things that we look at a cultural level, it's about the stories we tell ourselves. It's about the narratives that you hear on social media, stereotypes on both sides of the coin, the assumption that these relationships must be adversarial. That's another thing. So what sparked BJ was the whole Trayvon Martin death. That's what got her to say, okay, well, what's going on here? She noticed something about Black communities. Black community members were not filing complaints when officers were mistreated. When she asked them, they told her, we don't believe nothing's going to be done. And so this kind of made her go, okay, well, how can we get beyond that? How can we encourage people to do these things? You think about this, entire communities have given up on accountability. They internalize the powerlessness, and law enforcement. We create a system that confirms their belief. So who is BJ Counsel? Oops, there we go. So she is the first African American female, and in the earlier presentation of Ayana had, she talked about Steve Chalmers. We both worked under Steve Chalmers. He was our chief of police. We both came up under the ranks under him. But BJ was our first African American female deputy chief in the PD, which it gave her just a different perspective from seeing, and we talk about this law enforcement hire to go up, you see more of the department. So she saw a lot of things that she liked and a lot of things she didn't like. But she really said Black first, law enforcement second. And that's important. That's important because now you have an identity. A lot of us will come in here and this is our identity. This uniform, this badge, that's our identity. She says she's Black first, law enforcement second. Now, when I first heard it as a cop, I'm thinking, there again, I've always been trained as an officer first. This is a new concept for me. This uniform, like I just said, comes before everything else. That's kind of how we've been taught. But she said she's not choosing identities. She holding truth to both of them simultaneously. So it's not one or the other. In her mind, they're equal, but it's still she's black first. Mm. And then when we talk about why does this matter? Well, she can speak truth from the police department, and she can also speak truth as a community activist. She knows the system inside and out, and she can speak the truth that other officers can't, because the reality is she lives as a black female in America. For what it's worth, I think she's the bridge that we need, or bridge we need to become. She's not a translator between both sides, but she's someone that genuinely belongs to both worlds. And so, as black African American law enforcement, I think that's something that really intrigued me. So, what is UN50? What there again? This is something that she created after the Trayvon Martin murder. She said for her, it's about getting people home safely. And we think about it, a lot of our encounters, when you see the negative encounters or traffic stops or detentions on the side of the road or in public somewhere. And so she's not trying to, it's not about reforming the police. It's not changing minds. It's just getting people home. That's what it comes down. That's what it boils down to. And so she wants to teach people how to create comfortable spaces for uncomfortable situations. She brings community members together, but not to debate policy, but to talk about real interactions. So she'll create a space where you may have an interaction on a traffic stop or in a mall setting or just somewhere in public. But she teaches people about the constitutional rights, about not legal jargon, but things that people can actually understand. Practical information. When can an officer search you? What should you say? What should you not say? There again, things that we encounter every day, but it's about getting folks home. Phone started ringing. Apologize. But she, and then the other side is she shows people how to file complaints about complaints that will be getting heard. And so, one of the things we always talk about is, when should you protest, or when I say protest, you don't argue with officers on the stop. You take your time, you listen to what they're going to say. If there's something, they're doing something you don't like, survive the encounter, complain tomorrow. That's what it comes down to. And she says that, for the community member who says nothing would happen, she's going to show you how to make it happen. And so I think that's important. What's remarkable is after about 10 years of doing this work, data that she's followed up with has shown a double-digit increase of legal knowledge. People walk out of her workshops knowing their rights. They have a level of comfort with police interaction that improves measurability. But here's one thing that I think stood out with me and kind of struck me and stayed with me. She accepts people wherever they are. If you walk into her workshop and you're hating the police, she doesn't try to change your mind. That's how you feel. That's what you believe in. But she says, I need for you to get home safely, and we can work on everything else later. And I think that's significant because, a lot of times we'll go to these things and we're going to change somebody's mindset. If they're locked in, they're locked in. So there's 3 levels of change. And so there's an individual level, there's an institutional level, and there's a cultural level. Now, at the individual level, she's transforming consciousness. She's trying people transforming consciousness one workshop at a time. There again, people walk in not knowing they're right, believing that they're powerless, but they walk out with knowledge and tools that they can use that make accountability possible. The institutional level, she says there's something that shocked me the first time I heard it. She says law enforcement is not the solution to a safe community. It's not. The community is the solution to a safe community because you have to stay there even when we're not there. And so that's, to get people, and we're not talking about snitching or, because that's what when we say that, that's what people really hear. We're talking about doing things and learning things that's going to help you. And, it's one piece at a time. Communities need multiple resources. They need social workers, mental health, they need economic opportunity. All those things go into this community building that we're talking about. At a cultural level, there's a shift in the narrative. She believes that mutual responsibility, not police, need to change, is what we need to focus on. Communities need to comply, both communities and officers. They need to work together. And so it's just not one side or the other. You know, the line, there's a thing that she talked about, this line that connects the community with the officer, understanding that you both want to go home. That's what it comes down to. Everybody wants to go home. And so I think that's something that's been probably one of the biggest strengths of her program. A picture of her and Steve Chalmers. They work together. The UN50 and Hey Tyree Reborn, they do work together on a lot of things and collaborate in a lot of the same spaces. And so that's one thing I'll say about that, even beyond the law enforcement career. I will tell you that her, from my understanding of it, and I think this is important with the class, her approach is entirely, almost entirely proficative. She's not trying to abolish policing. She's not organizing protests. She's creating models of engagement that work right now within the system that exists. And I think that's important. It's like I said, she's not trying to rewrite things. She did get pushback from both fellow law enforcement officers. She's gotten pushback from people doing some of the same work. You know, not every community activist thinks that she's too close to the police, but she does face rejection on both sides. She's been explicit. She's been told by agency heads, chief of police and another agency, told them to stay away from her, which is crazy. You know, she's really trying to create something that no one's really touching. Of course, if you see some of the pictures, this is her from some of her workshops and some of the things that we're talking about. One of the things that when we talk about the material dimension and the spiritual dimension, one of the things that she talked about was respect, and that was huge. Just she spelled it out just like you see it right there. What she identifies as respect is the number one issue that raises problems or questions, because sometimes the officer feels disrespected, sometimes a person, and it's mutual on both sides. You know, when somebody says they hate the police, you know, she's not chastising that. She's not taking that as disrespect. She's taking it for what it was said in. And so I just want to point that out. For me, how does this change? Like I said, when I came to this project with 30 years of experience, I thought I knew what was good leadership, clear orders, measurable outcomes, chain of command, everything that was taught in the academy. But after talking with her, my most effective moments as a commander, it wasn't so much when I imposed solutions from top down, as when I took the time to understand what is happening in my communities, what is driving my problems, sitting in this class here. And so, Doc, when you're asking, what am I getting from this class? It's a better understanding of what really the community needs and what we need to do as agencies across this country, not just here, but understanding that, and like even BJ, she said the only difference between social work is a gun. So the key insights, and I'll conclude it right here. First, we all need to be bridge builders, no matter what we do. We need to be you know, she's not just a translator between communities, but she's somebody that's working in that space, and she's positioned herself to create possibilities that will hopefully lead to better solutions. We have to understand also that both we got to be pragmatic and a visionary. She provides the tools that work today that's pragmatic, but she also maintains a long-term vision that what she's thinking about is going to happen, and she's not going to sacrifice one for the other. And then lastly, I have to say that we have to measure success beyond matrix. Yes, data matters, double-digit increases, that looks good as a police commander, or decreases in some cases. But I think for me, two things matter: relationship and trust. And I think if you have those great positive relationships, you're going to build trust with your community and you're going to serve your community better. And I think if you can figure a way to quantify those and put those up front, that's what's really going to be the change that you see in policing. These are just like, they're again, just different shots of her working. And at the end of the day, the disease can be healed. We have to work at all levels. We have to address material and spiritual things, build alternative systems, move beyond from ideology to the consultation. What she's doing now is kind of what she started preaching in the police department before she retired. And there again, we a lot of us rejected it. We thought that policing was going in, busting some heads and going home at the end of the day. But for her, it's about going in and changing the mindset of both sides. For me to be effective, I've got to change the way I think. But for somebody to understand what I'm trying to do, they have to change their mindset to accept what I'm putting out. And so I think that's what I get from BJ and what she's doing with UF50, and it's just been amazing. Just the whole idea of social change in terms of really dealing with some of the elements that causes the community problems, that are the true sources of our crime problem. Because there again, from a police perspective, we look at the data, and we're having B&Es over here. Why somebody breaking or something? Because, as a matter of fact, I'll use an example here on campus. We had a guy that broke into several of our dorm rooms over Thanksgiving holidays because somebody locked the door. And so, why is this person breaking into things? Is he really hungry? Is he substance abuse? And so, but and for her, that's the things we kind of talked about was the actual root causes of what it is that's causing this problem. Can I be loyal to professional and honest as failures? I think finally figure out a way to admit, you know what, that officer was wrong. That officer shouldn't did it. Now, in situations like George Floyd, hands down, there's no denying that, and it had to be that. But there's situations where the officer went too far, and I'll say that I've seen this in my career where after I review a video or something, I'm like, and I had one of my guys, he was chasing a guy, and the guy stopped and gave himself up, and he went to sit down, and my guy still tackled him. And I said, now I'm reading this report, and I'm looking at the video, and they don't match. And I said, now, so you telling me that you want me to sign off on this and say I'm okay with that, and they don't match? You probably need to go back and rethink this and rewrite that. And that's admitting that I could have easily signed off on, okay, I agree with that, but that's me failing him and failing the system, and admitting that what I'm seeing is what it is. And if we had more people to do that in the profession, you'd see a lot less headlines. But people aren't ready for that. Officers aren't ready for that. But for me, like I said, seeing at this class and seeing in this class and seeing things at a different level has really changed my perspective on things, and even stepping into my new role is now I'm going in with a whole different lens. I haven't seen it as much as and I'll tell you, like one place is Kinston, North Carolina. She went down there and she did a huge outland. Unfortunately, what I would tell you is, and this is one of those things where when I talked about people talk bad about her, some of the folks that were saying things not to trust her to stay away from were folks that we work with. And so we have folks in the house that's refusing to accept this and grow. And so those folks have prevented her from being successful in Durham. And she does a lot of things with church organizations and that kind of stuff. But on the police side, working in the department, she's gotten a lot of rejection from that. And so until the police side in Durham says, hey, we're willing to look at this and we're willing to open this. Now you put out some mandatory training, they're going to take that because they have to. But when she first started, she was in DPD. She was working and got more pushback from there. She went down east to Kinston, North Carolina. They met her with open arms, and the drops that I talk about, and that's where she got her numbers from. in the over a 10-year period where she saw the different increases in knowledge and the encounters went a lot better. And so it has to be acceptance on both sides. And we just, unfortunately, in Durham, we hadn't seen that because people in the department, they, they hold grudges and they won't let stuff go. And because BJ said it, they're not going to accept it.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Gaddy, it's been such a pleasure following your project through your Google document and just like giving you support during this semester. I'm, I admire you for choosing um, your collaborator. I know that it's sticking your neck out. There's people that don't agree with her and like what you're saying, and I really think that's admirable, and I think it's a perfect testimony to like who you are, like such a person that's just curious, and you want to pursue what's right. You want to do what's right, and you're open, you're willing to learn, and you do of course honor the police force and your badge and your uniform, but at the same time you realize that you know it's community. Police are here to support community, and then we can't have a division like that. And so giving in to just a culture of separation is not the way to go. It's really opening your heart to learning about a lot of the things that we shared in this course, and I see that I'm just amazed at how you were able to take so many of the concepts and just apply them directly to your uh, personal and professional situation. And yeah, I just congratulate you. That was a phenomenal presentation, thorough, fantastic. Really, really,
It's,
congratulations.
thank you. This is, and of course, this is part two for me. I had the original course last semester, and and I said this, I think, in one of my other classes, that I would recommend this for anyone that's coming anywhere close to the criminal justice profession. It's something that is recommended. Like hell, if I could send my officers through it without making them go to grad school, I would, because
Mm,
it's needed, and what we're doing here is so important, and it's breaking down those barriers that have existed like I say, well, for centuries, really,
yeah.
but particularly as law enforcement, and it's barriers that as professions, law enforcement, we built, and we have to be the ones to tear it down. And then the other side is community working on the same side, tearing theirs down and meeting in that mutual space. And I think that's what's important to me. Like I said, I talk about this class all the time. Okay. And for what it's worth, and it's been that good of a class, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.